Hello and welcome everyone to our channel. I am Kass. In this video we are traveling from Seward, Alaska to Anchorage and from there onwards to Valdez, also known as Little Switzerland. Yes, you heard me right. Valdez, Alaska is often referred to as Little Switzerland. This moniker is due to its stunning scenery, including snow-capped mountains, glaciers and lush landscapes, which evoke the beauty of the Swiss Alps. So stay with us and you will see this stunning landscape, and I share some knowledge about Alaska later on in this video as well. However, let's get this video started with leaving the town of Seward, Alaska, and take you along with us and see some truly beautiful landscapes along the way. It's a busy day of travel and I prepared a little map to show you geographically where we are at and where we are going. As you can see here, left bottom corner Seward, over to Valdez, right of the map, and it is about 8 hours, 710 kilometers or 443 miles, depending of course how many times you stop. And there is also a ferry you could take from Whittier, as you see there. However, that doesn't run every day, so make sure you check the ferry schedule, as it was closed when we were traveling that way. As I already briefly mentioned, I will also provide you with some information in regards to the state of Alaska. As an example, how did it become part of the US? And what was it called before it was named Alaska, when it was still owned by Russia? Sporadically I will pull up these little maps, give you a little bit of an idea where we are at. As you can see, we are slowly approaching Anchorage, but we are still probably about an hour south of it. Right now I just deviated from the highway real quick. I just wanted to check something out, and that's a little detour. However, eventually I ended up in a dead end. Now with the distance we want to travel today, as I mentioned before, it's about 443 miles and 700 kilometers. I did not want to spend too much time in this area, so I turned around and we headed back towards the highway again and moseyed on towards Anchorage. As we make our way back to the main highway here, you will see again we drive north along the Cook Inlet, and if you follow our videos you may recall I provided some information about the Cook Inlet, ranging from local wildlife and some old towns, with some of them of course these days mostly being ghost towns. But it's an absolute wonderful and beautiful drive, as you can see right here. Meanwhile, we are going to arrive in Anchorage, and Anchorage is Alaska's largest city. It is in the south central part of the state on the Cook Inlet. The population of Anchorage is around 290,000, and the city is only about 31 meters or 90 feet above sea level. It is best known for trails, wildlife and glaciers, and the city apparently can get up to 22 hours of daylight in the height of summer. Now to my right here you see the fence and the tower. That is the actual airport to fly into Anchorage. As you see here, Anchorage is just a city like any other further south, except much further north, much colder in the winter. Now as we slowly leave Anchorage behind, we continue our travels towards Valdez. And in the meantime, being on this day 12 of this Alaska trip, I'm going to share some info about the state of Alaska. Some of you may be aware of these facts and know this already, but perhaps for some others this is some brand new knowledge. So while you enjoy the scenery of this drive, I will provide you now with some background information as I understand it, and what Alaska was called before the US purchased the land, and what is the history behind it all. Here we have another little map. We are east and north of Anchorage on our big loop before we head south again then towards Valdez. Anyways, let's dive into this topic about Alaska. Originally Russia, and you heard me right, yes, originally Russia owned this land. So you may wonder, why did Russia sell that land to the US? And as usual, things are a bit complicated and we have to go back in time a few years. The area now called Alaska was in the past owned by Russia and named as Russian America. Russia controlled most of the area that is now Alaska from the late 1700s until the mid 1800s, when the fur trade began to fail for ecological and commercial reasons. Russia decided to focus its efforts more to the east of their territory. Another contributing reason was Russia's defeat in the Crimean War, further reducing Russia's interest in this faraway region. Eventually, Russia offered to sell Alaska to the United States in 1859. It believed the United States would balance off the power of Russia's greatest rival in the Pacific at that time, which was Great Britain. You may now wonder, why would the US even be interested in purchasing Alaska? In Russian America, the Americans foresaw a potential for gold, fur and fishery, as well as more trade with China and Japan. However, the Americans also worried that England may try to establish a presence in that territory as well. So for all these reasons, the acquisition of Alaska, when it was offered for sale by Russia, it was believed it would eventually help the US become a Pacific power. Now, some of you may wonder why Canada wasn't interested in potentially purchasing Russian America. After all, we have a big border with them. Well, there are two main reasons. First of all, Canada wasn't its own country yet in 1867. And the second reason was Great Britain had control over the Canadian colonies, and with Great Britain being a rival to Russia, naturally, they, as in Russia, did not want to sell that land to its rival. Let's get off topic here for a minute, and we pull over to this rest stop, and up front there in the distance you see a glacier on the left hand side. So the footage right now is going to be a little bit shaky as we try to get closer to it, and the roads were pretty rough, so it's not such steady footage as we go along. However, we could not access the glacier because they think it was private property eventually, and you had to purchase a ticket to actually go to the glacier in order to look at it. Now, we decided after all we're not going to go there, and there was really a main reason. There were different pricing, some for locals, for Alaskans, and some for tourists. Now, while I may be able to understand a little bit of a price difference, if memory serves me right, I think for a local Alaskan resident the access was $50. If you were a tourist from somewhere else, it was $150. So it's $100 difference per person, that is. And personally, I found this a little bit on the rich side. And since we've seen other glaciers, I decided now that's not worth it, and I'm not too happy with the humongous price difference. But hey, that is me. Not sure how you think about it, but perhaps leave me a comment. What would you have done? Anyhow, we go on here, and I pulled up the little map there again. And here beside the highway you also see these posts or poles, whatever you want to call them, and I think we figured that's for the winter time with the snow and massive amount of snow, so they know where the road is, and it helps with clearing and maintaining the road. Anyways, let's get back to Alaska and the information about it. Eventually, in 1867, the US acquired Alaska from Russia for $7.2 million, which is equivalent to $150 million in 2025. I don't know about you, but to me this seems like a heck of a bargain. Now, the US had several reasons again for wanting Alaska, including its potential for resources like gold, fur, and fisheries, and also its strategic location for trade with Asia and its role in becoming a Pacific power. Now, naming the land after it was purchased from Russian America to Alaska. Under American ownership, the name Alaska was chosen by the Americans from the word Aleut word or whatever. So please forgive me, I probably completely messed these words up. I think one of the names was kind of named like Alaska or Alaescu, meaning great land or mainland. In the Russian area, the name had been used for the Alaska Peninsula, which the Russians had called Alyaska or Alayeska. Now, Initially, the purchase was seen as a huge mistake. However, when gold was discovered in the Yukon, which is in Canada, it's a territory in Canada, in 1896, and with Alaska's growing strategic impact during World War II and then the Cold War, that all completely vindicated itself, and the purchase of Alaska was one of the best things the US probably ever did. Alaska was initially covered under various different forms, eventually receiving territorial status in 1912. So when did then Alaska become a US state? Well, eventually residents voted in favor of statehood, and Alaska became the 49th state on January the 3rd, 1959. Now, with that extra information I provided you during this video about Alaska, perhaps you can now say, I did not know, but now I do. In the meantime, you can see, based on the astonishing landscape here, well, this part, as we get very close now to Valdez, is called and referred to as Little Switzerland. This point we're gonna pull out here, gonna give you a, not a roundabout view, but about a 220 view, 180 to 220 view, and then also show you a couple pictures. The biggest issue I had here is there was thousands of these little flies. I can't remember the name what they were, but they were in your eyes, in your ears, and they were just a nuisance. Beautiful, isn't it? You will see a little bit more once we head the other way then again in a couple days. But as you can see, the sun is getting lower on the horizon, and we still have just a little more to go till we arrive in Valdez. You can see down here the climate is already milder. Here's a little picture again. The hood and the front of the car is just about in Valdez. The rear is a little bit further back. But anyways, it's still nice, lush and green here, and I'm just gonna pull out here. There's a rest stop coming up and just show you one of the waterfalls coming down from the side of the hills, or I guess I can call them mountains. We are just a little bit up the valley still here, and pretty soon here, about the next corner or so, we are down to sea level again. We will actually arrive in the town of Valdez. And the town of Valdez is situated in a deep fjord at the shores of Prince William Sound and at the base of the Chugach Mountains, which is further enhancing, of course, its resemblance to a Swiss alpine setting. This is the local RV park within Valdez. We spent a couple nights in that park, so it's not a bad place to stay. Now, day 13, we are right now on day 12, we will also spend in Valdez, and I will have a lot of info about this town for you guys, the hardship it had to endure in the past, so perhaps subscribe to our channel, press that notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. For this week, I want to say, as always, thank you very much for watching. Be well, stay safe, and you will see me again in another video next week.